What's up guys, SLOTH here. Today we're looking at the changes that are coming to the PTS and to patch 4.1. So 4.1 was the original patch for the next season, for Season 4 of Smite, but on PTS there have been various, different experiences that led to various changes of the items in the game and the gods and everything. So we're going to go over these because they are quite drastic at this point and they will definitely affect the PTS, and most likely a lot of them are going to make it to live because the closer we get to the release, the less changes there will be, I'm assuming, and everything is going to be more balanced out. So these are the changes for round 2. We go over round 1 as well because I haven't covered that in an individual video. Most of them are probably known to you. Starting with round 2 though. The start timer for Conquest is now at 1 minute instead of, minus 1 minute instead of minus 130. That just effectively means that it's back to the wait time before the game starts in Season 3. You now have 1.5 minutes, and the half minute of that is basically where the minions spawn and walk to the middle, and at 0:30 the buff camps spawn, but you don't have to wait 2 minutes instead of 1.5. There's no actual gameplay difference here, just less waiting time, which is good. The minions clash at the same time as the jungle camps spawn still. The jungle camps have seen some changes as well. There was an issue because of the way that the health scaling over time was changed, depending on if a jungle camp was up or down, that they scaled a little too high in health. So now there is a 1.75 multiplier instead of 1.85. Should make the guards a little easier to kill at the camps a little easier to kill at later stages of the game. The other elemental also received a change where it is now only consumable or eatable by Bakasura at 33% health instead of at full health. The other elemental has quite a lot of health, it's quite tanky, and Bakasura was able to eat that up right away, basically the same as mid harpies. Now it acts like a buff camp. I think actually this is quite unfortunate for Bakasura. I think that this capability of taking away so many buff camps was something that brought Bakasura a little bit more back into the meta. If you remember back in Season 3 when the boars existed, he suddenly came into the meta just because he could secure the boars so easily. And, that's no longer the case in the same way, as he can now not consume the elemental right away. So he goes back to a little more of an average jungle state, I would say. With that, we're getting right to the god changes. And the first one here is Hercules. Hercules' mitigate wounds was completely changed. It was changed before on the PTS, and now it's changed again. Now it heals twice. It doesn't heal over time. It heals you for 220 immediately. Then it gives you up to 50 protections for 4 seconds. And after those 4 seconds, it heals you again for up to 70% of your health. This is still less than what it was last season. It was up to 90%, but he now gets the protection, and it's now also immediately, it's instant. The instant healing has upsides and downsides. You can counter that part of the heal much better by just, hitting him with a curse at 3 seconds, and he's gonna get healed for much less overall, instead of having that tick over the 10 seconds as it was previously. But it also means that, for example, if an anti-heal runs out 3 seconds in, it's gonna be irrelevant for the second part of the healing, instead of having those first 3 seconds of ticks basically being worse. So, take it as you will. It's a bit of an upside, bit of a downside. I think overall, with the new items and stuff like that, it puts Hercules in quite a good place. Janus gets a nerf. Now, Janus had a global ultimate that allowed him to travel the map and let his teammates travel the map. And as most global ultimates get a change at the moment that increases the cooldown on their ultimates to 110 seconds, Janus is no exception. So it's increased to 110 from 90 seconds. Gonna give him a little less of that global mobility, and also gonna mean that he has to be a bit more wary of how he uses his ultimate, if he's gonna use it in a team fight and try to snipe someone, or if he's gonna use it to move around the map, which I think is very much justifiable because it's a very, very strong ultimate. Susano gets a nerf to a buff that he received. His Typhoon got the bonus damage for fully charging it, which went up to 100 base damage, which was very high on the lower ranks, whereas it didn't make too much of a difference on the higher ranks. Now this is changed. Now this extra damage scales as well, starting from 40 up to 100. So it's worth a little less to fully charge the ultimate now. But, well, if you can manage to, then why not? The first change to Relic here is to Hand of the Gods. Hand of the Gods now damages jungle bosses for the same amount as other minions. Keep in mind this amount is still significantly less than the execute threshold it basically had before, which was well above 1,000, and I don't think it goes even close to that now, even on level 20. So it's still not a safe secure for jungle bosses, and the health bars may be a little misleading in that regard as well. It's just gonna be a nice extra damage for objectives that can help you secure them. At the same time, it gives Hand of the Gods a bit more overall viability simply because of the other changes received via allowing it to have a reset upon use. Oddly enough, there's no change to Relic Dagger here, which had a weird glitch when interacting with this reset of Hand of the Gods. I'm hoping that's still coming in the next PTS iteration then. Sunder was completely overperforming on PTS. It was crazy, and as such, it sees nerfs. Not a surprise here, not at all. The debuff, which increased the damage against the target, is decreased from 30% to 15%, so half of it actually. I can see where they're coming from. It might be a little too low now. Still has to be tested out, but I think even 15% is still pretty good. I think they're just going to try and get a feel for when it feels balanced. With the standard upgrade here, some changes as well. The damage dealt is decreased from 60 plus 20 per level to 40 plus 14 per level. And the cooldown, on the other hand, is decreased from 100 to 90 seconds. So there's a bit of an upside as well, a bit of a benefit in order to justify for the nerfs that the item got. I don't think we'll see it as much, but we have to figure that out. Rallying Ritual. What a tongue twister. Rallying Ritual is basically teleport to gods, and what happened was that if the god you were teleporting to got stunned, the teleport would get interrupted as well, which doesn't really make sense because the one who's using the ability is still you. This is fixed, and now if you are CC'd, it's still interrupted. If the god you're teleporting to is CC'd, it's no longer interrupted. Wind Demon was a bit too strong, a bit overperforming. Who would have thought? A very strong item beforehand that got extra attack speed. And in order to, well, offset that a little bit, to compensate for that a little bit, it's getting a 10 power reduction from 40 to 30. In my opinion, still a very strong item. A little more competition by Poison Star now, but still worth building overall. Soul Eater. Soul Eater was a little too crazy with a 3% heal per basic attack, so that's getting nerfed. Now the passive heal is 2% of your maximum health instead of 3%. Oddly enough, no change to Erlang Shen in that regard, who can double proc this with his dog and can get 4%, and apparently does not have the same decrease scaling as other items do on him. I'm not sure why that's the case when they're nerfing the item already because it's overperforming. Generally, I feel Erlang Shen was probably the problem child with this item. The Talisman of the Relentless was an awkward as hell item which procced after you've gotten hit by a few CCs, and then it suddenly gave you immunity or something. It's just really weird, and it's gone, and that's good because that item was just strange. No one wanted that weird passive. Rage was seeing very little play. And that's not a surprise. The price has now been reduced to 2,200 instead of 2,600. And the buff of Rage has been increased from 5 seconds to 8 seconds. Now the thing is that Rage's passive is still awkward. They could kill a system-dependent passive. Not good. And because of that, the only reason it could become viable now, because it's cheap in comparison to the stats it offers. If we get it to that point, then no one will care about the passive anymore. But as long as the passive stays that awkward and that situational, I don't think anyone will want to pick it up for the passive. It's always going to be over the stats until the passive is changed again to something that feels more useful or more well, calculatable. Let's call it like that. War Flag. Movement speed and attack speed bonus from this now affects all allies within range. Very interesting change. I felt that the increase was a little odd on its own. It was 1% per minion killed close to you, up to 3%, I think. And it's it's a support item for physical support. Basically, it gives you some healing and all the movement speed and attack speed when a minion is killed close to you. But I always felt that A, those values are relatively low, and B, it doesn't really make sense to give the buff to yourself when you're the support. Giving it to teammates could make this very interesting. I'm not quite sure how this could be applied exactly, but it should definitely increase like clear time a little bit, and it should somehow possibly be able to make that work with stuff like Nike passive or Amaterasu passive, where you already get movement speed, and then you get more movement speed, and you're just skyrocketing across the field, trying to push up structures even. You'll have a faster time getting there. It's not crazy, it's 3%, but just clear the wave on the way and you get speed up. So that's interesting. I think the thought here was that maybe it can be ran with Watcher's Gift as a secondary starter, and I think it's slowly getting there. Fatalis tier 2, remove penetration from this tier 2 item. Totally fine. Doesn't need it on the tier 2. It's fine on the tier 3. Haste Fatalis gets a 10 price increase. John's Wrath gets a 10 price increase just to, even out the prices. Ethereal Staff. Ethereal serves as a nice alternative to Soul Reaver, providing a longer cooldown and non-true damage. At 3 seconds, however, Ethereal Staff overshadowed Soul Reaver, so we are limiting how often Ethereal can proc. So Ethereal originally had no cooldown at all. Then that's when it was broken. 3 seconds, I felt, was actually quite a decent amount already. You have to keep in mind that in most engages, most mages will throw out their abilities relatively quickly. So you will not get more than 2 procs in most scenarios. If even. Some gods only get 1. And that's for some gods, Soul Reaver would have still been the better choice. And I thought they both had a bit of competition. The gods that I would have built this on were Guardians. Like solo lane Guardians, give them a little late game damage through this item by having that extra damage on top. But now, I don't know about that. Because a 10-second internal cooldown is extremely long for an item like that. Especially when you compare it to stuff like Insights, which can proc on every basic. And I don't really see how this is going to be made use of, because the way that you would want to use it now is with solo laners in a constant trade, like Xingtian, just bullying in that solo lane, getting bullied back, the usual. But if you're just building it for that, and it's not useful for late game situations, then, or not as useful, then it becomes more questionable, because it's quite an expensive item that doesn't really offer the stats that you generally want in a solo laner. So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna use it for? I don't see the place that it has now, and that's a bit problematic. Not really seeing how this 10 seconds is justified. Maybe 5 seconds would have been fine, but 10 seconds just feels like you're just gonna get 1 proc per engage, and then you're better off with Soul Reaver. Soul Reaver's description was updated to indicate that this deals true damage. Hallelujah. Welcome to 2017, where information that was there for years is properly updated. It's nice. And apparently Ethereal is now magical damage, which was originally true damage, by the way. Heartseeker. Fix an issue where the stacks were being consumed on minion hits. Good. Because that kind of takes away a lot of the potential from the item if you want to use it against gods. At the same time, it helps with clear and stuff like that. But I see this being a beneficial thing, because then you can stack up and then engage on a god. Silver Branch Bow. Increased magical power debuff from 10 to 15. So this is interesting, because the reason behind this is probably late game, where magical power scale is much higher than physical power. So you decrease the value more. But awkwardly enough, in the early game, the power stats between items for mages and for physicals are quite similar. You have some mage items with 20 power and death toll has 15. You have the boots that have 5 power more, 45 power compared to 40. So no major difference in the early game. And Silver Branch Bow is an early game item. And I have played a magical ADC, and it was Sol. And I can tell you that playing against Silver Branch Bow is no fun, because in the early game your damage will be incredibly low in any kind of trade you're looking for. And with this, it's even lower. 45 power. That's straight up your complete power from boots ripped off you. So you cannot trade. The moment an enemy ADC gets Silver Branch Bow, you as a magical ADC cannot trade until much later in the game, because they're just gonna outdamage you so hard, especially with death toll being buffed as well, and still an odd decision to me. You're gonna have huge problems. And as much as this sounds like a fair value, I feel like this is targeted at specific mages that don't even care that much. Like, this may be something that is going against Freya, but Freya doesn't care much about power values because her base damage is ridiculous. So she doesn't need that extra power. Where the other mages, the other ADC mages, kind of got left in the dust. And I don't think it's the smartest choice to do it like that. We'll see. I could imagine this buff being reverted, actually. Ragnar's Mask. A little bit of a change here. The first buff now happens at 6 stacks instead of 8 stacks. Makes the item a lot more accessible, in my opinion. A lot more viable, because you don't need to snowball as much. 6 assists, 3 kills, anything in between. That's something that's reasonable in any game. And then you get the first wave of benefits, which is great, in my opinion. Maybe a little too accessible now. Maybe you don't even need to snowball anymore, because the rest of the stats will come eventually, but I'll see about that. And there's the bug fix, where you could keep the stats while selling the item. Gladiator's Shield gets a 15 power decrease. A decrease to 15 power, 10 power decrease. It has a lot of stats. It heals you whenever you get hit. It has physical defense. It has overall very good mix of stats for 1,700 gold. So I can see where this nerf's coming from. It's probably fair. It's probably reasonable. It made you very tanky in the solo lane. Sands of Time. Passive, increased bonus MP5 per 10% missing mana from 1 to 1.5. Not sure if starter item that has like the CDR as a redeeming quality needs another buff. Jungith says thank you somewhere. I don't know if I say thank you. I feel like this is, nothing that needed to happen, but I guess. Spectral Armor. Internal cooldown increased from 60 to 90 seconds. If you don't remember what Spectral Armor does now, it fears everyone around you. Honestly, is that necessary? Can we just not have that passive? I've not heard a single person say, I really want that passive in the game. But oh well. Pythagorum's Peace. Now this one's awkward. Simple description here. We made a few adjustments to the stats it provides to bring it more towards being a support choice. If there's ever been a change that I've not been happy with, is this one. So Pythagorum's Peace, an item that was great. It had great stats, but it was always undervalued. People did not buy it despite of it being so good. People always went for Chronos Pendant, like just focused on their own game, and what's stats for your team when you can have 10% CDR for yourself. And I love this item, and I thought it was great because it had power over Chronos Pendant. And now we're losing 20 of that power. We're losing 3% of the magical lifesteal, and we're losing 3% of the magical lifesteal from the aura. So it's still 24% lifesteal. That's not bad, but the power decrease is just odd, because I don't think this is an item that you will ever really build on a support. I do not think it needed the side of the buff where it affected physicals as well. I think it was absolutely fine, only affecting magicals. And yeah, Now it's in an awkward spot because the mid laner will not want to build it. The support will have no room to build it because it's just focused on damage and no defensive stats on there. And now it's in a really awkward place. Maybe the mid laner will still build it. Hopefully the mid laner will still build it, but I could see why they wouldn't want to. I don't like that. So I don't like this change at all. I don't think it's a good change. I think Pythagoras' piece being a key item for mages was not a bad idea. And there would have been enough people who undervalue it anyways. But there you go, Pythagoras nerfed. Bancroft's Talon gets a price decrease by 100 gold, and the magical lifesteal is increased from 10% to 15%. So apparently Hyros wants to make Bancroft's Talon a thing over Pythagoras' piece. I'm guessing. Well, it's a little cheaper. Spirit of Isolation. Spirit of Isolation not really working out the way they wanted to. It's now 2,800 gold, 80 power instead of 70, and 20 flat magical penetration instead of 15. Passive, now in addition, earning a kill or assist subtracts 1 second from all abilities currently on cooldown. I don't think it's the best idea to do it like that, because it's still a flat pen value for a lot of gold, and if you spend that much gold, you kind of need percentage pen, because it's late enough into the game that flat pen doesn't usually do much anymore. But maybe with the passive, it will, find its place on Habwa or something like that. There's more of a reason to pick it up than there was before. Still not that much of a reason, in my opinion. SLOTH Gaia, the passive was a little too strong, who would have thought. Now, the immunity is still there. You're still rooted instead of getting knocked up, basically, or pulled to the ground instead of getting knocked out. But 10% health and mana heal on knockup has been removed. Instead, the old passive is back. Regenerates 2% of your max health every 5 seconds. I like this better because it gives me more sustain in lane and roaming, so I'm not complaining. Overall, it's going to do more for you, just less of a burst heal. It's still a very strong item. Change is justified. Soulstone no longer provides mana when consuming stacks. The odd thing is that it still provided MP5 beforehand. I'm not sure if that was fixed. I'm not sure if it actually still provides MP5 now, or if it doesn't provide any mana at all. If the plan was just to not do both, then yeah, absolutely. If it doesn't give any mana at all, bold choice. Now you really have to consider what you do. You have to probably combine it with an MP5 item early on in order to be able to pick it up. Swift Wing passive will now fade when entering combat. Makes sense, because it's kind of an item that's supposed to get you from base, not make you ultra fast while fighting. There's a 2 duelist, and well, this is just let's see. They want to see which items they want to ban in which game modes. Skadi's probably getting some buffs because she got some nerfs and she didn't really get enough in her turn, in my opinion. And the new Conquest buff gets another color name. And we're now quickly going to go over the PTS round 1 changes. Not the fixes, just the changes. Ethereal stuff, that's already been changed again. Stone of Binding, just 10% CDR removed. Not much to say there. Another fix. So it's a little weaker, 10% CDR. Probably too much. Brawlers and Divine Rune both heal for 40% instead of 50% now. Reduce the heal for 40% instead of 50% now, which I think is very much justifiable. It was probably a little too much because you could easily get it really, really low. Hell got a complete rework of a rework. Restoration can now hit enemies again, and then it deals damage. It will not heal her, but it heals her when you heal someone else. So it's a bit of the old one and a bit of the new one, depending on who you hit with it. Inspire has increased healing per tick a little bit, just 5 per tick, so it's especially better early on. And Hell gets healed instantly now, whereas the allies receive the heal over time. And her stance change now gives 15 MP5 at the first stage, and then goes up to 35 instead of 5 to 25, meaning she will have a lot more MP5 in general, which really helps her. That's it for the changes of the changes. Hope this was interesting, insightful, helpful. Hope to see you for the next video tomorrow. I will do more reviews if there are more changes down the road. Maybe a last one before Season 4 hits. Thank you guys for watching. See you tomorrow. SLOTH out.